KLTV soundcheck, KLTV soundcheck.
Meeting of the BOCC. You gave me some more paperwork. Okay. We'll get started if you want to rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
She's the most updated policy.
Okay. Okay, I'll ask is Commissioner Mortensen for review of the minutes.
Good morning, everyone. As usual, I reviewed the minutes of the activities last week and I move to approve those minutes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. Any questions, corrections? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Thank you. Rundown consent agenda under agreement contracts bid awards. We have an agreement with Dell to purchase computer equipment. We like to replace our equipment at 5-year intervals as when our warranty is. So the machines that have reached that point or reached out of warranty, we're looking to replace, and it's a total amount $366,990.56. And I think we go through a service to do that saves us a little money. Release of bond in lieu of retainage with Lakeside Industries for the last year's 2023 countywide overlay. And we have an interlocal agreement with the City of Kelso for plans examiner and building inspector services. They have one person over in Kelso, and when they're not there due to vacation, sickness, whatever the reason is, then the county will help them out with that. And we charge them $90 an hour for doing that service. Resolutions, a resolution for the South Toutle Road head wall repair project. Actually it's milepost 1.08. We're having some concerns up there, so we're going to take a look and see what it takes to fix those concerns. And number 5, we have a resolution for submission to voters within the county for the November 5 for the general election, an advisory vote asking whether a sales and use tax for chemical dependency or mental health treatment services or therapeutic courts should be readopted and reinstated. That's 1/10 of 1%. If you remember, we let that sunset. I think it sunset at the end of March. Resolution rescinding Resolution 22-005 and revising the employee policy guidelines. We did some changing to our hiring policies and stuff. Various letters, affidavit of posting resume of the commissioner's proceedings for the month of March. A letter that we sent in support of Kalama to the Honorable Pete, I can't say his last, Secretary of the U.S. Department of Transportation, supporting a grant application submitted by the Port of Kalama. It's for a rail line extension down in their commercial area. Couple letters from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to Pacific Corp, which we get copies of. One regarding the spillway chute investigation and one on the notice of intent to grant easement. And a letter to Carolyn Fundingsland, Cowlitz County Auditor, regarding an approved resolution from Emergency Medical Service District Number 1, directing a question of a levy in 2024 for collection in 2025 upon all taxable property within the district, $554,130 for an estimated period of 3 years. This is, we had that on a workshop last week. This is the district that serves out the Highway 504. It's out rural area.
Yeah, from about Yale out to Cougar.
Right, right. So only the people within that district will vote on that. And that's the consent agenda. People have questions?
There we go.
There you go.
Why would the Port of Kalama need to have permission from Pete Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation, regarding a rail line extension?
Well, they put in they put in a grant application and they're kind of asking the secretary to be in favor of it. I don't know if it's actually permission to do it. They've put in a grant to have it done, and I think they're just trying to get as many people to support it as they can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just a question, you said SR 504, I think it's 503, isn't it?
Yeah,
The Lewis River
503.
Valley?
Yeah, 504 is Spirit Lake, that's right.
Right.
Yeah, 503, yeah.
The Kalama project is to expand rail service for the Temco elevators. Everything is about getting more rail access to shipping products. So it's a pretty tight fit right down there, and they've designed
Yeah,
Uh,
if
additional.
if I recollect correctly, they applied for this grant last year and we also sent a letter. They must have not received it because we were asked to do it again. Any other questions?
Just a comment on that. This is the kind of grant that the board really likes. It builds infrastructure.
Yeah. No questions I'd entertain?
So part of the consent agenda includes a resolution referring to the voters, that advisory vote for reestablishing the 1/10 of 1% tax for behavioral health treatment programs. That will require two committees, one for and one against, whose comments are printed in the voters pamphlet. And at the front table is an application form. If you're interested in serving either for or against, we have to come up with committees of at least 3 people to weigh in, and then your comments will be published in the voters pamphlet. So
We heard,
same rules apply for that emergency services district issue as well. So
yeah. I heard from Carolyn yesterday and I think there's time, but it'd be good to have those committees earlier better than later. The forms are up there. She said you can run them through our office, through Kelly if you want, or you can run them down through Carolyn.
Yeah, the deadlines are this 6th of August for forming the committee, and the text itself of the argument has to be there a week later or by a week later.
By a week later, so.
I have, my impression is we have at least one person in the audience that probably can't wait to get a hold of that form to sign up. I wasn't mentioning any names, Tim, but
Hey, so let's say the advisory does something. We take the vote and the advisory says no. I presume that would mean we would be encouraged not to go ahead and renew it.
well, we work for the voters and they're gonna, they set the rules. So I can't imagine going against a vote of the people on something like that.
Except it's one of the more difficult things we face when somebody says, you represent me, but I'm not sure how to measure that over 114,000 people, and I always measure it against the oath of office too, and so it gets a little complicated. Let's take the other case, in which case overwhelmingly does pass, then I think we would probably be inclined to put that tax back on again. How about in the middle?
What do you mean in the middle? Adjusting the rate?
51% said yay and 49 said no.
It'd be a discussion at least.
Well, Arn, that's one of the nice things. You and I don't have to particularly worry about that.
Well, that's.
But it also
I-
could be. an
I
issue
knew
for
that
the
was
new
coming.
candidate.
Yeah.
But it would be an issue for the candidates to take a
Yeah.
stand on. so.
But that is the next question is, the primary ends and we will know the result of the primary
Well,
before.
This goes on in the general.
Oh, that's the general.
Yeah.
EMS is,
It's EMS, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, so this in the general. So we will know for a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll be slow moving.
well, the very first county commissioner meeting I attended was before I took office, and that was tail end of December of 2012. And that was the meeting when the commissioners implemented that tax without a referral to the vote. And it's always grated on me that we never ask the people. And I think, taxes should be referred to a vote of the people wherever that's possible. Yes, the legislature sets the rules, and yes, they can give us the discretion to pass taxes and set taxes, but I much prefer referrals to a vote of the people. So I'm glad we're doing it this year. By the way, did anybody actually notice that the tax went down? The sales tax went down? Good.
How much more money is going?
How much is it?
I told them.
Yeah, actually, that begs a government technique, which is divide and conquer. We want this amount of money to operate the way we want to operate. And, but that's too big a lump. If we came to each of you, you'd say, hell no. However, if we split it in little pieces, any little
Yeah.
piece is so insignificant that we go ahead and approve it, right?
You have to give it back the same way it's taken, and it's taken in little chunks so you don't notice it so much. So,
Exactly, yeah. It's a secret of the income tax withholding.
So I'm assuming we're at the discussion period for this one. It seems like it.
well, you can discuss anything on consent agenda. We haven't
Okay.
done anything with it.
Well, anyway, to start, I'd just like to recognize Judge Basher's here, and his decision in the State versus Gators was just a well-written piece of a document. It was amazing. Every page of that is great. Now I feel like I'm bumping heads against the system here a little bit because I know that this kind of goes around a drug court, which we've been arguing against for a long time. I have, sorry. And the tax. Now, I got to say that I have faith that Judge Basher and the drug court system, if they feel that it's working, then I would trust Judge Basher's decision, opinion on that. However, the tax, that part of it, I believe, at the least go to the voters. I don't think it should be on there. I think that they could fund this with other monies. It's already been funded for the next 3 years anyway, and they've got money in reserve besides that. I've got to argue against the tax. That's what I've been doing, but I'm not so much against the drug court part of it now. I have faith that Judge Basher recognizes if a good job's being done or not.
Yeah.
And thank you for that decision, by the way, officially.
We just got updated on figures yesterday, so if you want to know figures, and it's fully funded through the end of 2025, through the next budget. It runs, the expenses are a little over 2.9 million, and the two big chunks are therapeutic courts and the corrections programs. They're about the same, and then smaller stuff out. So the 0.1% actually generates probably a little over 3 million a year. So that's it, partial answer to the question. That's how much is going back into the community. Any other questions on consent?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve today's consent agenda as presented.
Got a motion to approve today's consent agenda? Any other further questions, comments? Not seeing any. We'll call for a vote. Those in favor
Aye.
Aye.
also vote aye. Thank you. Motion items, 3 of them today. We'll start with Health and Human Services.
Good morning, Gina James, Health and Human Services. We have one item on the agenda this morning. This is a contract with Family Promise of Cowlitz County. Family Promise is an organization that serves families who fall into homelessness. Originally, it was hosted by different churches and families would move sort of from one church to another. Churches would kind of rotate and take turns sheltering families. Through the pandemic, it's became stationary and kind of stayed with one location, and they're continuing with that model, still heavily supported by various churches and congregations, and as well as the community in general. A few months ago, they came to the board and asked for some additional support to, they've done some enhancements and some expanding of the shelter space so they can serve larger families and things of that nature. Asked for some help with some shelter supplies, some temporary staffing costs, those types of things. So we have a contract today in front of the board. It's for not to exceed $40,000 as a one-time support of their sheltering services in our community.
Yeah, this came as a workshop a while ago and they did have, they added some space or added some rooms. I shouldn't say space. They added some rooms and stuff and used their capital to do that. And then they were asking for a little help to get through that. And I think they have some, if I remember, it's been a few months, but if I'm trying to remember, I think they have some, they concentrate on families and just families that have fallen on hard times, and they work with them on budget and stuff to get them out and get them out into their own place. And they've been pretty successful at it. So it was several months when it came to us, we didn't have any heartburn with it for sure.
Well, yesterday, the U.S. Supreme Court reviewed the Grants Pass case on whether or not it's legal to make camping outdoors illegal for homeless people. And the justices had some good poignant questions about can you really make it illegal to be homeless if you don't have control over the homelessness situation? And yet, at the other hand, it's become an increasing burden on communities all across the nation. Apparently, the numbers of homelessness have increased 12% in the last year, which is kind of a shocking increase. But the thing that I focused in on that I noticed with the discussion is that Grants Pass didn't have programs in place, and they had made then, they were arresting and fining people for camping illegally, and it was that was kind of in response to the Boise decision, which was another circuit court of appeals that affected the western part of the country. And it occurred to me that this is one of the things that makes Cowlitz County kind of a pioneer in how we deal with homelessness in the community. We don't have just one program. We have quite a few different programs that offer transitional housing and treatment programs and educational programs, financial education. I mean, we have a pretty good array of homelessness programs so that it is illegal. I mean, I think local communities should be able to regulate the camping because the impact of the camping is an environmental and public health disaster as we experience through Alabama. So, I mean, it is kind of interesting. Family Promise is fairly low scale and not all that well known, but it's the one family that actually focuses on homelessness among families. And it's a program that
Yeah.
we should be supporting with our private contributions particularly. But here's a situation where they've got a one-time only request, and I'm certainly supportive of that.
Yeah, we talk about that quite often. We'd like to see private, the churches or other private sector involved in making these things happen. And this really does in this case. I look at it as they expanded their rooms and they spent their capital to do that. So almost like I'm reimbursing the capital they used to spend those rooms and operate, because I know the churches from around the county send so much a month to support the program. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we haven't yet turned a corner on homelessness. Among other things, we fail to distinguish between various causes of homelessness, and that is actually rather problematical. The nice thing about the family promise is that they actually hit the homeless sector that I think I'm sort of fond of, and I use that term a bit loosely. It means that there are some people who, possibly their own fault, but generally they're part of a system wherein they got laid off. Now, what is it that they're going to do? And then they got laid off because there were company closures, that kind of thing. So how do you, I really don't want to send those people out in the street if we can possibly avoid that. It's a different question to ask, would I enforce a dock recording fee as we have? So I'm assuming that I have no choice over that, and there's all of your dollars there. I'd be much happier with a volunteer system, but ignoring that, we've got those dock recording funds available, and this seems like a proper place to spend them. One of the metrics is you don't beget more problems. If we do things like the old Camp Alabama, I think we beget problems. We spend $1 and we get back $1.50 of problems. I think here we don't encourage families to go homeless by helping families who were gainfully employed. So, and then another issue that is often ignored, and it's something I bring up all the time, and it causes people to think I'm crazy, but there is an effectiveness factor, there is an efficiency factor that we tend to ignore. We all have experience going to a dinner somewhere where if the company is paying, the guy orders a bottle of wine for $80 when they would never have ordered that on their own tab. And so here, when we're dictating how to spend this free money out there, we do some things that we don't look at closely, at the risk of making things aggravating some people. We take a look at how much was spent on the first edition of Camp Hope. It was an outrageous amount of dollars. If we look at the proposed expense for carrying the new youth system when it gets built by Community House, we're talking $56,000 alone just for the premises and the staff to manage that. That's per occupant. So that's 24 times 56. We're at $1.5 million. The point there isn't that you want to begrudge helping people. You want to do it in a sensible way. If you can help one person with $1 million, how about if you helped 2 people if you only spent $500,000 per person, and so forth? That's the argument. Anyhow, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve contract number 24-015 with Family Promise.
Okay. We have a motion on floor to approve. Take any comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor
Aye.
Aye.
also vote aye. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
IT.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kim Hort, IT Director. Before you today is an agreement with Security Solutions Northwest. This is for building security for the Hall of Justice. Judge Basher and I collaborated and we obtained a grant from AOC, so the Association of the Courts. The acronym, yes. And then there was a budget requirement of 40% to match. And so Judge Basher and the GR 36, which is the Court Security Committee, we partnered and walked through our business needs and our safety needs for the Hall of Justice. This is a cooperative off of the Washington Learning Source contract, and the total expenditure is $225,490. And of that, the grant is covering 117, so close to 50% of that.
And the other close to 50% comes from IT reserves.
It's a combination of funds, so there's a 40% match required, which was budget approved from Superior Court. And then partnering with facilities, they're contributing 50,000, and then IT reserves is 50,000. IT is investing because this includes core infrastructure, so there's servers and network cabling and stuff like that related to this project. And we believe supporting our employees and their safety and
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more on how the system will be operated?
Sure. So this grant primarily is investing into a key lock system. So we have a range of antiquated door locks, which are just standard keys, and then there's multiple platforms that have been deployed. This would
So by antiquated, I'm assuming you're talking about if it's 100 years old
roughly 50, 70,
or when the building was built.
So just with technology and the management, this would allow us to manage user access based off of network user accounts. So as people are hired, transferred, or terminated, when we disable their account, they would then no longer have access to the building. Currently, key lock systems either require that physical keys are returned, or we have, fancy variety of different systems. It could be a little key fob or a key card. So this is standardizing everything, and it's non-proprietary. So it would allow us to fold in our security camera system all into one platform. So it's kind of an integration of technology as well.
It's going to add some cameras too, right? So
Yes.
the judge is leaving, they'll have a view of outside that there's nobody standing out there before they get through the door
Yes.
type thing.
Yes, this doesn't necessarily address all of our security needs in the Hall of Justice, but addresses, the building access from the outside in and from the ground up. So that was kind of our approach.
So I'm still curious about, by the way, don't misunderstand me. I think this is all good stuff and it should have been there a while ago. But the question is, it's only as good as the operations per se. So, for example, when we come into the Hall of Justice, we go through this machine that looks at our bags. I want to be sure that there's someone taking a look at our bags as we get the camera input, or that we have some way of flagging abnormalities. So that may be some AI issue in the future, but right now, will all this feed into a control room?
It can, yes. So specifically the cameras, IT can grant users access to certain zones or certain cameras. For example, risk management has access to all of the security cameras. The sheriff's office has access to view all of Hall of Justice. And so it's kind of like least access based off of what they need to be able to see, but we can scale it out based off of user. As to having like a designated full-time staff watching cameras, that's ultimately up to the board and the direction of how we want.
That's the issue I'm bringing up. When you go to the Hall of Justice, at least during normal hours, you've got a security guard that funnels people through. I'm thinking that some manifestation of what's going on should be there so that that same guard can serve the duty at the same time, or some such thing.
Oh, like at corrections where a person sits and has the monitor, can see what's happening throughout the
Something
thing.
like that. It's because
I don't
it's a serious
necessarily
issue.
disagree with that. You're talking like at the point of interest, they'd have a view of what's going on in the different parts of the building.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We are looking at like mass notification system, ways that we can leverage our new telephony system and integrate that with, some type of alerting system. So it's not just IT driving this. It's been a very cooperative approach. And I
Let me
think
make sure I understood. I didn't catch the early part. You're using face recognition?
no.
Well, that's what came to my mind. That's actually interesting. The
I mean-
person who just walked in is Judge Basher. Okay, not a problem. Person just walked in is Arn Mortensen. Okay, batten down the hatches.
Up against the wall.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to take notes to see if we can do that. Just kidding.
I actually do have a little bit of a confession. One of my guilty pleasures is watching crime programs on TV.
Which ones do you
And
watch?
what you're describing as a centralized security system just reminds me of those programs where somebody hacks the computer system and releases prisoners. And I know there's, prisoners are escorted into the Hall of Justice, and there's a back elevator that's supposed to be very secure. What are the safeguards to prevent that kind of hacking from outside?
I would say networking. Segmenting the network is critical. Lance Hollingsworth took a very flat network where everything was on the same road and essentially built different tiers. So the jail operates on its own local area network, whereas the security for the Hall of Justice will run on a different network. So just hitting one panic button isn't going to release prisoners over at the jail. They're segmented.
Good.
Yeah, you should pretty well be able to keep those systems on their own network.
Mhm.
And,
Not connected to the internet at all.
well, connected through a box that is anything can be hacked, but this can be very difficult to hack.
Yeah. They would have to go through our firewall. So this is going to be on our premise. So the servers will be on site, the network will be segmented, and therefore we're not, going out of our firewall
Mhm.
to a cloud infrastructure. All of this will be kind of behind that safety net.
We could even consider it being in a firewall of its own within our firewall, which is.
And we can do that too.
Yeah.
Add additional layers of security and such.
I know Judge Basher has a reputation for being astute, high-tech wise in certain products. Any concerns that you have about the program that you prepared?
I don't. We worked with Kim probably for about 8 months, I think, on this project. We worked to secure the grant from AOC to get they'd offered a small rural security grant. They do that occasionally, so we try to take advantage of those. I would caution the board about, I guess, discussing specific security parameters that we may have on our systems, because that sort of shoots in the foot the security of having something going out in the public, how it's constructed and all that. I think we provided, I assume we provided what the details of what it looks like. So there is a little bit of concern about that, talking about details. But as far as we put this together Kim put it together with our input, so it's addressing what our concerns are. And if anything that's computer-based has its flaws, obviously, and its weaknesses, but our hope is it'll be designed to minimize those.
And you designed it, of course, to meet the local needs. Is it similar to approaches other courtrooms around the state have done? Did you key in on others' experiences, or you just started from scratch?
We did not necessarily reach out in regards to like what other technology. We were incorporating what we have and finding platforms that weren't proprietary, because that's kind of backed us into a corner with like our heating system is a good example. The approach I think that's different is that there was a lot of collaboration with facilities. Will Tasted was phenomenal in giving his feedback. Risk was involved. So it wasn't just IT and Superior Court, making the drive. It was very collaborative. So it did take time, but the company that we went through was recommended through the Association of Cities and Counties. So they were well vetted. So it's kind of we didn't necessarily reach out saying, hey, how'd they do? But they had a reputation in the community of IT in the
Great.
state.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would add one more comment. We were here, I believe, last fall, and the board did approve, I believe it was about 185,000 originally for this project, and then there was some comments from the board that to look into other options, and I think that's part of this request, is that increases somewhat at the board's request and somewhat in analyzing the needs, seeing some other things that we could build into this. So that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to add is that this is a scalable system. So we will be able to add on multiple locations. So if we decide that we want to address security for drug court, we have a platform and infrastructure in place to then build off of that. The same thing for the administration building. Like it's a scalable platform, which is
Yep.
something IT was looking for.
So
Go ahead.
a quick question on that is the data, the recordings, we'll want to make sure there's a retention policy so that we don't keep too much garbage around.
And again, the GR 36 Court Security Committee is very mindful of that. And again, being a partner with the risk team, I think policies and procedures will come about with this security opportunity.
There's a long list of needs at the Hall of Justice. This helps alleviate one of them. And so without further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the amendment to the Washington Learning Source contract to acquire camera and door locking systems crucial to building security at the Hall of Justice.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor
Aye.
Aye.
also vote aye. Thanks for your work on that, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Human Resources, Jessica.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jessica Warren, Human Resources. Before you this morning is a 3-year collective bargaining agreement from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2026 between Cowlitz County and the Corrections Officers Guild. This agreement covers 42 corrections officers. Financial changes include cost of living increases of 10% for 2024, 6% for 2025, 4% for 2026, as well as an increase to shift differentials for graveyard hours from 60 cents an hour to 75 cents an hour. Along with these changes are various language changes, including limiting the use of comp time or last minute comp time use to reduce the number of last minute forced overtime situations, as well as language protecting new officers from being forced during training days. Updates to leave language to reflect changes to state leave programs, as well as language allowing the department to approve unpaid leave prior to hire, and language allowing the county to make future changes to insurance programs.
Okay. just a quick comment on this, because you'll notice this is more aggressive than some of the contracts you've seen. We have right now over at our facility, we have 8 openings. It's been difficult to find, people that want to choose that as a career path. When they did some comparisons with counties close to us, similar counties, other counties are getting very aggressive to try and find people. So we find ourselves in that position too. So, that's probably the main reason you're seeing this be a little more aggressive than you've seen other contracts.
Yeah, actually, the day we discussed this in detail, there were a lot of concerns, but I think the bottom line is simply what was just said. If you've got openings and you can't fill the openings, you got to figure out what it is you have to do. Then you look outside and you say, oh, we don't pay as much as this and so forth. Well, again, it all boils down to, I got to get staff and I've got to pay more. It's that simple. And those of us who are free market types can appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that this is the last of the contracts that we have, rather than starting off with a big wage settlement, because that sets the tone for everybody else. So,
Until next time.
yeah, until next time. Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and make the motion. We can discuss later more if you wanted. I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement with the Cowlitz County Correction Officer Guild effective January 1st, 2024 through December 31, 2026.
We have a motion to approve on the floor. Any other questions, concerns?
You've got a hand up.
Yes, go ahead, Nick. I think let me put my glasses on.
You're muted. No, not.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to be on for the public comment, so I wasn't commenting on this.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Mhm. Any other comments? I'll make a comment that Jessica's done a wonderful job with this. She's had a lot of contracts over this year, and we watched her work with them, and it's in my opinion, she's done very well, and I know she's glad to be done with it for a while. So,
Thank you. Yes, I am.
so party in HR tomorrow. So, okay, seeing no other comments, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, before I open to the public, a couple things coming up. Tomorrow at 2:30, we'll have a discussion on the lodging sales tax and the cumulative reserve. April on Thursday, and this sounds like it's going to change. I was handed an email here. City of Longview was requesting a meeting with the commissioners. It was set for this Thursday, well, it still is set for this Thursday at 5:30. It will, if it happens that day, it's kind of a different thing it'll actually be 2 meetings. We'll have to, each city will open their meeting, we'll open our meeting, and it'll actually run 2 meetings concurrent. But then I just received a email from their city attorney. It didn't come to me, it came to our attorney. Based on conversations at our management team meeting this morning, I expect there may be an attempt to reschedule this joint meeting to next Thursday, May 2nd. So I don't know what's gonna happen on that.
I'd like to say I'm perfectly happy if you were the only one of us to attend. And that way that minimizes all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
I would too. That would make it probably a lot simpler.
Okay. I'll offer that suggestion to them if that makes it easier for them.
Mr. Chairman, tomorrow we also have scheduled a workshop on the lodging sales tax
Right.
and the cumulative reserve. As you may recall, I serve on the state's Shorelines Hearings Board as a representative of counties. And I've got a meeting scheduled that conflicts with that. So I'm not going to be able to participate on that.
Okay. We did one on on the rural facilities district, and it just kind of is good information. It tells you how those things accumulate and what they're supposedly supposed to be set aside for, what can be used for, and it's good information. Okay, with that, we'll open to public comment, and I had a hand raised, so we'll start with Nick. If you want to unmute yourself, we're in
I
public
just
comment.
did. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, commissioners, good morning. Nick Massey, 1761 Caples Road, Woodland, Washington. Here to talk to you about a matter of utmost importance to me, maybe not to you guys, but to me. It's the trail permit negotiations that are taking place with county staff, including Susan, Savannah, and Mike. Our discussions along with consultations with the prosecuting attorney and other relevant personnel have delineated clear stipulations for the trail permit aimed at compliance and community welfare. It was previously agreed that a Class C road spanning 20 feet would suffice to meet the county permits requirements. This decision was made after meticulous consideration, ensuring alignment with regulatory standards and practical necessities. Additionally, consensus was reached on the use of the private road approach at the intersection of Rink Road and the unopened right-of-way, a measure intended to enhance the efficiency and safety of the trail of the driveway usage. Regrettably, recent deliberations have unveiled discrepancies regarding specific intersections and roadway conditions. Despite prior approval of the fire marshal for the use of an existing turnaround at the intersection, for the intersection between the right-of-way and the private road, concerns again have been raised by Public Works. Susan has expressed reservations regarding vehicle turnaround capabilities and the potential imposition of a gate on the road, and was also requiring us to get easements from the neighboring parcels. It's crucial to note that the agreement already stipulates the involvement of the prosecuting attorney in addressing any necessary easements, in which he said the county is blind from the right-of-way line over. They just keep coming back to this, that they want. Again, Arn, I reached out to you when this first began. I told you the issues I was having with Susan and Patrick at that time. You told me at that point that it wasn't helpful. Gentlemen, I was at the Wednesday meeting last week when we, I watched it with the complaints against the Public Works. I know you don't want to criticize your staff, but when are you going to hold them accountable? She's just not happy with having coming up in agreements. I mean, after we met with her on this one, and then she come back and she wanted an intersection again. And we said, no, we're not going to get an intersection. And she said, well, I'll go back and talk to the attorney about the gate, and then we'll get back to you on that. So then we finally got our information back. And so she removed the requirement for the intersection then. But they required an as-built for me. Now, the county already did an as-built on this road. And so I had to hire Bloom to go back and redo an as-built so they could have a 20-foot, I guarantee there's 20 foot on this road. It was, but I just spent more money to prove what was already proved. Why is it necessary to keep doing this and spending more and more money? And then,
But
go ahead, Arn.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I suspect, anyhow, for the public and everyone, this is an issue that is now in contention between attorneys. It would be improper for us to do anything, to say anything here other than let the attorneys figure things out. I can assure you, no one in the administration here is interested in causing anybody any difficulty, but we're not going to argue details or anything of that nature here.
I disagree, Arn. There is no attorneys involved in this right now. Where are you getting your information from?
Well, it comes straight from our attorney.
Why wasn't I notified of this? I got, the last correspondence I've had came back from building and planning.
When we face the possibility of being an appellate body, which this may come down to, then our ability to have a discussion on it ends, because we'll have responsibilities as an appellate body. And so that's the
Okay, gentlemen, can you
recommendation
just
from our
step forward,
attorneys.
and before we go to the appeal, do you just want to deal with this so we can get it solved instead of having to go through the appeal process? This has been 3.5 years. Rick, you yourself has told me you were going to call me back, and you never called me back when you promised me. I'm starting to lose trust in the commissioners also here. This is not a good thing when the public can't communicate with their commissioners and they're being impacted by the attorney that's trying to stop this. I don't know what he's trying to do, but I have no trust in your attorney either. We've raised this issue with you, Rick, on the letter that was sent with negative information about myself. And nothing was done to anything here. This has got to stop. When is it going to stop?
Well, I know you did, but it looks like we're gonna end up as an appellate body, and if you want us to make a decision on it, if I have a discussion with you and then it comes here, I'm recused. There's nothing I can do, and we're all in that situation. So we're kind of sitting in a hard place. We don't want to get to a point where we can't make a decision and recuse ourselves. And I see Doug's popped on. I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
Yeah, I mean, two things. Mr. Massey's free to petition his elected representatives on matters of legislative and governance importance. Matter is now under a permitting process. That means that the board statutorily may end up under the Appearance of Fairness Act, operating as an adjudicator of the issues to be raised. This is not the forum or the time to raise those issues. We've communicated that with Mr. Massey. He's free to show up and talk. It's an open forum. However, the board is not going to respond to his personalized issues regarding what he perceives to be his rights and claims under his permitting process. That needs to work its way through the process, just like with anyone else who applies for a development permit. It gets processed, it's through staff. There is a administrative and what's called a quasi-judicial process for them to challenge the decisions of staff. That will work its way through the process as well. And Mr. Massey will appear on his own behalf or with other counsel and represent his position, and the decision will be made based on that. That's where we're at today and where we continue to be at.
Okay, well, I'm very disappointed in the prosecuting attorney for not coming to I'm disappointed in the board for not controlling their employees to make things fair. I mean, you guys heard it last week. That county, the public works is a mess, you guys. There's no leadership in there when you have two inspectors telling them people that they do different things. So we elect you to deal with these issues. And yes, I realize my issue is personal, but this is bigger than this. And so if that's the way we have to go, I would love to sit down and visit again about it, but I can't even get a meeting with Susan. And when I do, she brings up more and more issues on it. So, and I told her the last time that when she went to visit with Doug, that we wanted to be present, and she wouldn't allow me to do that. And so I'm not getting all of this. This is unbelievable here. And it's very disappointing. And I will continue to rally against this to make sure we get things done over there. And I will file an appeal on the basis of that. And so we will see you on the appeal then, if that's the way it has to go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I'll sign off.
Ron?
Good morning, Commissioners. 3 questions regarding this proposed or supposed meeting with the city of Longview. Number 1, I don't know how you meet with the city of Longview. The meeting notice would have whether you're meeting with the commissioners or staff or whatever. Number 2, is that a public meeting that will be announced that we can observe, participate? And number 3, this one says Thursday at 5:30. For my schedule, there's already a city council meeting at 6 o'clock. So you're in a squeeze if you don't even get the chance to look at each other in a half hour. So 3 comments.
It's set up just like we would hold a workshop, only a joint, what they have vision is a joint workshop. You know how they hold workshops in that back room? So that's where it would be, and it would be open to the public. It sounds like they're gonna maybe move that to the second, because I don't think the discussion they have, whether it's just with me alone or with the, my colleagues and I, is going to be more than a half hour. I think that's, I mean, I can give them my opinion in probably 10 minutes, but.
Sure. Okay, so that's what you're
but it will
anticipating,
be open to the public, Ron.
a workshop, and that would be so the public would have an announcement or something for the agenda for Thursday's Longview City Council meeting. And normal
It should be
protocol.
on their agenda.
Yeah. Okay.
But like I said, it sounds like it might be changed to a different date.
Right. Okay.
And it
Thank
may
you.
change to me, which would make it easier. Okay, Tom, go ahead. You still on?
There we go. Now you
There
got
you
me
go.
now. There we go.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning, commissioners. First off, I have to ask, do Commissioner Mortensen and his acolytes like Ron Kozlowski think they're being clever or funny by consistently and purposefully referring to Hope Village by derisive names like Camp Hope or some variant of Camp Alabama? I know Commissioner Mortensen struggles to enunciate some words, but I'm pretty sure he's capable of saying Hope Village without difficulty. I'm not sure what motivates Mr. Kozlowski, but I suspect his reticence is nothing more than ugly and immature obstinance. Earlier this morning, during the talk about the letter of support for Kalama, Commissioner Mortensen reminded the public for the umpteenth time that infrastructure spending is something the board supports. So it begs the question, how can he not see that Hope Village is infrastructure? I'll bet we all agree none of us wish it was necessary, but the reality of our nation's housing industry being the latest gold rush means there will be winners and losers. We have a moral obligation to do something other than complain about the growing homelessness crisis that Commissioner Weber just reminded us has grown by a staggering 12% just in the last year, I believe he said. Magical thinking does not solve this problem, but Hope Village helps mitigate it, if only modestly. You should all know there are 150 people on the waiting list in addition to the 49 people being served right now. So the simple fact remains, basic housing security is becoming more unaffordable by the day in our county, and the problem is only getting worse. Finally, Commissioner Weber is the representative for District 2. The city of Longview is in District 2. If only one commissioner is going to attend the meeting with the Longview City Council either this Thursday or May 2nd, whenever it ends up happening, it should be Commissioner Weber, not Chairman Dahl. Thank you.
Actually, about a third of the city of Longview is in the 3rd district, so it fits.
Any other? It's your time if you want it. Don't see any other hands. Okay, we see nothing else. We will adjourn. Thank you.
Pretty amazing, right?